Welcome to another really exciting session. I'm super pumped to be joined by Mario Mitchell, CEO of the Mitchell Group in the greater Charlotte Metro. This guy's just a phenomenal guy, an incredible and very energetic leader, and you're going to be really excited with his story. So he recently made a change in brokerage, and the result of that change, which we're going to talk about, took him from last year's production of about 30 million and about 80 units to this year. He and his team will do 190 units and 75 million in production, more than doubling. And so I'm super excited to be joined by you, Mario. Welcome to the session.
Absolutely, Chris, man. I appreciate you reaching out. I'm excited to get through this and share whatever I can to help anybody out.
Awesome. I love it, brother. I love it. So with that, let's just jump right in. I'd love, Mario, just in your own terms, to share with us and the audience, if you were to describe, what makes the Mitchell team so successful, so what are some of the key things that if I were to join the team, I could experience and those keys to success that you have?
Yeah,
how would you describe that?
Great question. I think the key things for our team is we're energy based. So each person that we bring on, it's all about being a family cohesive unit, making sure we're always kind of the wind underneath each other's sails, if you will. But more importantly, with that energy, we have a dynamic team in the sense that, we have a good leadership role, as well as, we have folks that we can lean on each other at all times to make sure that we're always progressing forward versus getting stale, if you will.
I love it. I know one of the big things for you is being in the office. And I know you and the team were even in the office during some of the shutdowns last year. And I know that that's just a big piece of that. Can you just speak to that? Because I know so many teams don't have that emphasis, but speak to just kind of where that comes from and the results that you think, you see from it.
Yeah, I think routine is very important. The way I educate our team when they come on, I always mandate that 2 days out of the week, they have to be in the office. For me, my routine is I'm always in the office between 6 or 7 a.m. I get through my affirmations and do what I have to do early on. And then by 9 a.m., I'm running through it. So on my team, I want them at least in the office between 9 and 2 p.m. And at 2 p.m., I want them out and going a different route home every single day. So they're not staying stale, but more importantly, putting themselves in other positions to meet new people. So I always tell them it's not about writing contracts. It's about building relationships. Just find a new way home and stop somewhere on your way and build a relationship if you don't have appointments to go on at that point in time. So routine is massive. And for me, I work consistently every single day, Monday through Thursday. And then Friday through Sunday is just family time. The rest of the week is I devote hardcore into my business. And then the weekends I just shut off my phone and spend all the time I can with my kids.
I love that. And so with that in mind, Mario, do you feel like you're, since that's the expectation and you feel like that's where the success comes from, do you find yourself looking for certain types of profiles of people that you're bringing onto the team in terms of their experiences, their willingness to be a part of a routine and environment like that?
Yeah, right now, and that's one of the things that I'm working on as we get into the new goals for next year is understanding to be better at retention, but also in my hiring process. We've developed a boot camp over the last 2 years, and our boot camp now allows us within that 7 to 10 day period to really kind of find out who they are. Because on paper, everybody's perfect. So what I've learned through the past is once they come on the team, 30 days later, their production is horrible, their presentation isn't there, and their being on time isn't around. So what I've learned through the boot camp, we require everybody to be here during our boot camp from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. so they get used to our schedule, and then allows us to see how they work, how they do things on a daily basis, and what type of techniques they're using to try to create business. And then at the end of that 7 to 10 day period, two things can happen. They can either say, I don't want to be a part of this team based on the structure you have, or we can say, I don't know that you're fit what we're looking for energy wise. And then now that's kind of relieved us of that type of hiring process where we bring people on, invest 60 days, 90 days into them, and then we're like, oh, this didn't work. So that's been very helpful. But I want to get better at picking people, if you will. If I get better at picking fruit, that might be a lot easier than what we're doing right now. But at the same time, that's something I'm working on for sure.
Yeah. And so as the new agents come into your team, or even if the existing agents on the team are just looking for kind of like a refresh or a recharge, maybe they're, in a slump in some way, Can you share with us anything that you're doing to help them with their routines, help them with their time management, or, anything like that way that you're doing as the leader of the organization to kind of set the tone?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that has progressed my business in the last probably 6 years is getting a director of operations. If Chad wasn't there to help me guide through the team, so I stay on trying to figure out how to grow the business. And now Chad can spend a lot of one-on-one time with the team to help push them through. And I think, that's probably one of the biggest team position roles or most important roles on this team, even probably more so than myself, is having someone there that's constantly on top of our team members to kind of motivate them through the day, or more importantly, through their routine. And making sure that their power hours are done, their lead follow-up is done, staying on top of them through our CRMs, and then always being a person that they can lean on through contracts and through closings.
Yeah, I love that.
It really helps with ultimately it really helps with the motivation, if you will, because if you go in as a single agent, you walk into an office with 200 agents and you're an individual, you don't really have that ability to lean on somebody. Or if you accidentally lean on the wrong agent and then you follow their lead and they're not going anywhere, so now you're just stuck to this person. Where in a team format, you have the ability to lean on people that are always going to be there that want to get to the next level. And I think where we fail as an industry is that we allow people to come on independently instead of pushing them into a team first. I think that it's a very important role. If anybody had a chance or takes anything from this conversation, is get on a team. If you're new or fairly new or not doing the production that you want to do, learn from the team, take what you can, and then figure out if you want to go on your own or expand that team somewhere else.
Yeah. I love that. And picking up on that learning from others theme, I could imagine that it was a pretty tough decision for you to go from your previous brokerage, where you're the number one, right? Or, always number one, number two, the big fish in the little pond, so to speak. And you were very deliberate about putting yourself in a new environment where you weren't number one, low person on the totem pole. Yeah. So share just like what motivated you to want to make that change, and what was it really that drove you to want to be, a small fish in a new pond and kind of grow from there?
Yeah. When we were looking at our production with our previous firm, we were always one or two. We were fighting for that position every single month, top agents. My team loved it because we're getting all the accolades, all the high fives, the butt slaps. But at the end of the day, when you looked at everything, it was, we're doing $30 million in production. And when I'm looking around the country, 30 million really isn't a massive number. So what I did is I sat down with Chad and I'm like, Chad, this may sound crazy, but I think we need to move firms. And he's like, well, what? I was like, I'm not being challenged. I don't have anyone to lean on here. I have to go outside of my firm because I'm always at the top. Everyone's coming into our office. And in my mind, we're not doing great, So it was a difficult decision, but I interviewed with a couple of other firms and I met with some other mentors, and they were like, you just got to be around $1 million leaders, people that are getting $1 million in GCI. I was like, well, where are they? So I just found, a couple firms in our Charlotte area, interviewed with 3 or 4 of them. And I ended up with this one that has, there's multiple $100 million producers in there, and there's also $40 to $75 million producers. And when I looked at their numbers and I went to their team meeting, I was like, holy crolies. I was like, we're going to go from number 1, number 2 to like 95 ranking based on production. And when I brought that back to my team, they were like, say what? I was like, guys, we have an opportunity, but trust me, if I'm challenged, you're going to be challenged. And just by rubbing shoulders and being inside that space, our numbers automatically doubled, only because now all we've done is mentally challenge ourselves to be at a different level. And quite frankly, I had to be where those guys are. And that's just naturally the way I was grown. I got to compete. And I'm not one that likes to stay at the top. So at the end, now, as of last month, we're probably 12th or 13th in our office. So we've come very far in less than a year.
I love it. Well, congratulations. And I think, I know you're a humble guy, but that competitive spirit in you, you had to execute, right? It wasn't just a matter of changing firms. You had to go do the work. And I know you're no stranger to hard work. So congratulations on that. It's well earned, well deserved. So I want to get into then some specifics, to share with the audience around, because it's not like, 80 units in the prior year, 80 units and 30 million. I mean, that's hard work too. That's a lot of business. And so now you go into more than double that. I'd love for you to share, some of the, top 2 or 3 or 4 tactics that by going and, like, say, rubbing shoulders with the other top producers and networking with some of your, collaborators in the industry, what were some of those things that you've implemented this year to more than double your results from last year? If you could just start.
Great question.
Yeah. Start top to bottom.
Yeah. I was very fortunate that the guys that when I was picking my office space out, I specifically told the folks that were running me through, I was like, put me right in the heart of the guys that are doing the most money. I was like, I'll pay whatever it takes to sit there. So when I got in my office and met some of the guys around me, I would always ask them, hey, God, what do you guys do? I mean, to get to where you're at production wise, because we all could see what you do production. And then I would pick 1 or 2 things from them. But what I learned out of the 5 other guys that are surrounded by me doing more in production with less team members, mind you, they would all go back to farming. Like they've all been in the area for a long time, and I've been farming, but I was farming way differently. I didn't farm the way they were farming, and I would learn the simple techniques they had and how to bring community in and be able to be a part of it instead of just hitting flyers through really just blindly looking for dollars and customers. So now it's being a more of a community resource and being a face to the community versus just slowing things out there and hoping somebody returns our phone call. So I changed up my farming. That was number 1. Number 2 was lead follow-up. We were so bad at lead follow-up. When I looked back at our CRM system, and we were now taking more effort to put our time into the money we invested in that CRM and see where all of our gaps were, it would blow your mind, Chris, how much money we were just throwing out the window. So all we did was take Chad, added another role to him, and then we focused on our lead follow-up and said, hey guys, this is we got to hit this. We got to talk to these people. They're actively on our site. Why aren't we calling? And we retrained the brain, if you will, and put a lot more effort into the follow-up side. So that's number 2. And number 3 was just understanding how they did what they called power hour. I didn't even hear that before. I just said, get on the phones. So we wrote into our daily resolutions was to get in on a power hour. These guys had to call. They had to hit a certain amount of contacts, and we created games out of it. So it was more fun. And just lived on the energy that we had. And then also on top of that, we wanted to put more effort inside the office. As you mentioned before, during COVID and weird times that we're in right now, we were one of the only teams here that put a lot of effort in our new space to make sure that we came in, did work, got in and did a lot of it as fast as we could and got out. So those are some of the big keys that I think we took from that. And then a lot of these guys do what I thought I was like one of the only ones doing, but what I found out is a lot of these big leaders, they do the same thing. They seek out other guys and seek out other gals, and they fly to them just like I was doing and meeting with other top producing team owners and just hang out and talk stuff. I mean, when you leave a panel or a forum, it's the moments when you're sitting at the bar, hanging out or sitting on the couch and talking. That's when all the real juices start flowing. And that's where I picked up so many great techniques and opportunities that I was able to bring back to me personally, and then execute that, and then teach my team how to execute on the lower side of what I learned.
Yeah, I love it. So I'd love if we could just go back and maybe unpack some takeaways for the audience in each of these buckets to say, hey, what specifically. And I love your comments about farming. You described it as really just kind of an outbound motion, pushing the pieces out into the mailboxes. But you said, but moving forward, I became more a part of the community. Could you just describe specifically what were some of those things you were doing?
Yeah. So all of our farming stuff that we did before was really just bland. It was just stuff that we picked up. It was pre-processed, and we sent it out to all of our addresses. What I've learned from these is to be a little bit more creative on our farming. So we started doing food trucks. We hit food trucks every once a month. Then we started doing pool parties. So we really started bringing the community into us and getting used to our brand and not just used to our paper, if that made some sense. So we really started to invest into those farms, independent farms. And then when you come onto my team, one of the new criteria is to join the board of wherever development you live in. So now each team member is a part of the HOA. And then we get right into their farm. We start to show it. So we're really duplicating, triplicating each one of those farms and being a part of the community, which is a lot of fun. There's really no true investment. It's actually cheaper that way than it is just pushing all the print out, because food trucks, I mean, they're making their money. We're just there facilitating it and ensuring that everybody's having a good time, and everybody's got takeaways. So it allows the team members to be creative and put cookie bags together with all of their personal information, or raffles or giveaways or tickets. I mean, we do all kinds of random little things, which, you know, as a younger Mario, I'd be like, that's so cute. But now I'm like, then that's so important, right? I would think that was like silly before, but now it's massively important on a small dollar scale that gives you so much more return.
Yeah, I love it. And so have you, with these new techniques, have you had enough runway now to look at, you know, conversion rates or any kind of an ROI, any kind of, you know, meaningful measurable that, you know, I assume you see it in the closed results, but is there any specific data you could share?
Yeah, great question. I think, you know, before we never tracked on our print before. So that was number one failure. Number two, now everything that's coming in as we go through the last 12, or I should say 10 months, the last 10 months, we can see for sure where we're at in each market, and our turnover ratios, we're focusing more on that on every farm. So we can see where the turnover ratio is happening and how much we're retaining from that. So if, let's say, for instance, this one development on turnover ratio is probably 7%. So if there's 100 homes in there, you should see 7 go on the market. Our goal is to retain at least 1 of those. All right. So if we're getting 1 out of that 7, then we're doing good. That's my goal in a farm. And we try to stay in around 5% turnover ratio before we take over a farm. And we just make sure. So to answer your question, I guess, we see right now, from our farm alone, we've picked up 26 properties from the farming, which last year we didn't even know what we picked up. So
yeah, that's fantastic. And you know, at the macro level, how many homes across all the, you know, the subdivisions that you're touching? Do you have a sense as to what that is?
Yep. So each one is, you have to have a minimum of 150 homes to have a farm for us, and to a maximum of 500. We don't want to go on a farm over 500. So right now we're just about, you know, right around, I don't know, like 3,000 homes roughly, give or take, is what we're hitting on a monthly basis.
Okay. All right. I love it. That's
and
great.
then we're around 172, 3. Yeah. So which if we're getting 5% of that, we'd want to get, you know, 300 homes out of it, but we're not there. We're at 1%. So that's right where we need to be.
Yeah. But obviously you've anchored something that's working for you, right? So you just keep at it.
Yeah. And the best thing is, you know, we've been doing this, so it's not something new. The only difference we're doing now is we're putting our faces in the community, not door knocking. I mean, by creating an atmosphere where people are like, oh, the Mitchell team's coming this week. You know, we're on next door. We're letting everybody know what's happening. So we're jumping through all those things, and we're keeping the social interaction working. And that alone is what I think is helping us, because we get the phone calls now, not necessarily list our house, but we're getting the calls. Hey, do you know anybody that does this? Do you know anybody that does that? That to me is just as important as giving me the listing, because eventually what they're doing is they're remembering, call the Mitchell team, call the Mitchell team. So we've created a habit that hopefully will transition later on.
Yeah, man, you hit on something that I feel so passionate about. You know, that trusted network of vendors that you have is much more valuable to the homeowner, because that vendor's not going to want to let you down, because they're going to want those referrals versus them working with a homeowner directly. Sometimes a lot of times those homeowners end up having bad experiences. And I call that, for a realtor, that's their ecosystem. You know, and activating that, I completely agree with you. I don't know why more realtors don't have the intention of getting those phone calls and being happy that they're getting those phone calls, even though they don't lead to immediate commission dollars. That's valuable money down the road. That's the long game.
Yeah. And, you know, you just hit another thing that I didn't mention before. Yeah. I found even now in this past 12 months that I still kind of focused more transactionally than I did on learning how to build, you know, relationship business, if you will. And I've learned that through some of these guys too. Now, a lot of it's relationship business. It's not about, let me focus on the dollars, right? Let's focus on how many people can we create a great experience for, or the white glove, if you will. And that's something we're turning to next year. We're going to start handing out the white glove experience. And that's through, like you said, the ecosystem is giving everybody that great experience all the way through, not just through the close of the transaction, but through the next 5 years. And that's a big piece. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I love it. Well, great job. And so relative to lead follow-up, can you speak specifically to anything that you implemented that was different? I know that you leveraged the AI and, some of the tools in the database specifically, but like, did you make any changes to the scripts? Did you create a more discipline around the scripts, any daily role play or anything like that you really felt like additionally added to the success that you drove there?
Yeah, great question. Great point. Well, we've implemented role playing. Well, one of my biggest strengths is cold calling. That's just the way I grew my business. And for whatever reason, I never shared that with my team. I just didn't teach them. So now every Monday morning at 8 a.m., we have a team meeting where it's just role play. We get in there, we do objection handling, things I've never done before in my whole 18 years of being in the business. And I think that alone has given them that silent confidence to be able to get on the phones a little bit better and understand where the objections are going to come from, and just that cold role play, if you will. So that's number one. Number two is making sure that we implement that power hour, so folks are really going in and making the calls. And now we're doing follow-up on the calls from our team side of things, and making sure that they're getting the contact numbers that we want them to get. So we put some more criteria up that makes sure that they're hitting numbers that they need to hit, if you will. And then the conversations now, it's with our lead follow-up from our past clients, which we didn't put a lot of emphasis on, is hitting our past clients up for, we do what we call a 60-day evaluation of the home. So we go back into the house, walk the property, and we make them at closing, let them know, hey, this is what's going to happen. In 60 days, we're going to come back, take a look at the house, see if there's any flaws, kind of like a new builder would do in the 1-year evaluation, but we do it in 60. Get in there, reintroduce ourselves, because we don't want to be forgot. Sometimes we get forgot, and go in there and just say, oh, well, what do we do with this? And then we got these people that can help fix that. We got these people who could fix that, and be so they understand that we're a resource through the next few years. I love
that. Yeah, that's great, Mario. I love that idea. I'm curious, do you tie that in with the home warranty at all? In other words, I've found that a lot of buyers, they just don't really understand the home warranty, and virtually all of them have it because the realtors are providing it, right? But it's just like forgotten. It just sits in a drawer somewhere. I'm just curious. I love that 60-day. Do you find anything ever that you can say, hey, and by the way, the home warranty I got you pays for this?
That's where the question comes up, because a lot of things will break down. And sometimes, if we almost need to do it in the 30 days where it's just 60 days, because things happen, and then they'll email us most of the time and say, how do I take care of this? But sometimes they'll go and mess up that whole warranty, as you know, and they'll go get their own contractor and realize they just voided it. But when we're there, we get a lot of that questions. But at closing, we always send a new email, even though they have a closing package, but we remind them, if you have any flaws with the property and you have any things that need to be addressed, your home warranty is available. So we kind of take advantage of that up front, so we take that objection real quickly. But the 60-day thing is more of just keeping the friendship alive, and then our leave behind, put a magnet on the fridge, things like that. But it's just making sure that they understand we're here after closing, not just till the transaction's done. It never ends. It's my theory behind it.
Yeah, I love that, man. What a great idea. And the next piece you touched on, and then we'll wrap this up. But you mentioned, and I know just from our history together as friends and colleagues in the industry, and you mentioned it, more of a transactional business, and more of a situation where you're just looking for the low-hanging fruit and doing a lot of marketing, things like that. And I know this technique that you developed over the last 10 months is going to more of an unsolicited lead gen, outbound motion. Yeah. Can you just talk to that change in your team and what motivated that and the success around it?
Inventory was always, in these last 2 years, it's been a challenge for everything. But most of my inventory was always referred to us, and then I would trickle it down to my team. But what I saw when I surrounded myself by high-producing teams is that they would unsolicit their information and what they call unsolicited CMAs. And they'd go and say, hey, this is the value of your house. This is the information. Use it as you wish. But we're here if you want us to come in and give you a better dial in. We'll give them like a $50,000, $60,000 gap of what the value of the house is. But if you want us to come back, we'll come back. and they'd be more aggressive because we've got all of the addresses, which in turn gives you most of the emails if you really want to buy into that. And then just unsolicit that information. Say, hey, just so you know, you don't have to use this, but we want to give it to you. The value of your house today is X. I don't know if you're aware of that, but you bought it for X and it's worth it now. Take away some of the cost of closing costs, and this is what your net would be if you were to sell the house today. So, you know, you would be surprised. How many people are like, wait a minute, so you think I can sell my house and get X? It's the same thing as a lot of these iBuyers people are doing. They're just sending it to everybody, but we're just making it a little bit more personalized and breaking it down a little bit better. Yeah,
I love that. And so with that particular campaign, any statistics or metrics that you can report out on?
Yeah, 100%. So in 9 months, we picked up 64 listings out of just that campaign. And that was really simple. It's just sending an email with the format, and we just sit down. And that's part of our, you know, our lead follow-up is just putting these addresses together. You can find all the information when they purchase the home and just send it out, and you can see what their equitable position is and just push it out and take away some of the closing costs. And it was almost, I mean, I would almost want to kick myself.
Yeah, I know, right? I love it. So what was the population of folks that, you know, were at the top of that funnel to get to the 64 listings? Do you have any data on that?
Say that one more time. What was
the total number of outbound emails? Like you pushed to a population of
So we were upwards of 400 that we sent out. So I mean,
oh my God, but that's
still a great return.
Conversion.
The conversion was amazing. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. And this inventory market, I mean, it blew your mind, because you got to remember the iBuyers, they were quoting them significantly less than what we were quoting them, right?
Right.
Because the iBuyers had a different way of doing it. Yeah. But we weren't adding in, you know, sales commissions. We were just adding in what closing costs would be. We would overcome that objection when we got there based on the marketing plan. But so with that being said, it was phenomenal. Like I said, I was kicking myself. We should have sent out 10,000 of those, right? We had to data search each one, where the iBuyer people just sent out a mass thing, you know what I mean? But it was more time consuming. But looking back at it, I think moving next year, because the rates are so low and it will continue, I think, through 23 and 22, is that we'll probably put a lot more emphasis in focusing on unsolicited CMAs.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, Mario, thanks again for your time, brother. I just want to give you an opportunity to share any words of wisdom or advice. I mean, having more than doubled your business in the last 12 months from last year, you know, what would you say to anybody out in the audience there? Words of wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, here's one of my favorite quotes, Farrah Gray. It's build your dreams, or someone else will hire you to build theirs. Build your dreams, or someone else will hire you to build theirs. I think that's important to understand. And the other thing is, if for someone that's new in the business or transitioning, I think it's really important to understand the business side of real estate. It's extremely important. I think worrying about transactions is not what we have to worry about in contracts. It's really knowing how the business works, dialing into that, and understanding how to save dollars and create assets. You figure that part out, everything else will kind of just turn itself the way it needs to go.
I love it, man. What a great ending point. Well, thanks again, Mario, and congrats on all your success, buddy. Appreciate you.
You're the best, Chris, man. Talk to you shortly.
Take care. All right, man. Bye-bye.